Hey guys, Pastor Jeremy here. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I'm thrilled to have John Mark and Shelly Tyler, doctors John Mark and Shelly Tyler, some of Pleasant Valley Community Church's members that also own, operate RPI, which is Rehabilitation Performance Institute. Is that right? Great.
Yes.
So John Mark's a chiropractor, Shelly's a physical therapist. And with all of us stuck at home right now, a lot of questions that we've been getting are just about health and fitness and diet, and we're all somewhat out of our routine. And we thought that it might be helpful today just to have these two come in, spend a few minutes with us talking about some things that we can do at home while our gyms are closed down, and some things that we could do just to stay in a routine of being healthy and fit during this odd time. So welcome, guys. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Just going to ask a few questions here today and listen to these guys. So let's just start this way. Maybe John Mark, we'll start with this question. Everybody's out of their routine right now. Like everything is just kind of in this bizarre time. Could you talk just a little bit about the importance of routine as far as our eating, our exercise, if that's something important at all? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think, going through this time period where you don't necessarily have something to get to, I think it's really, really important to kind of make a certain schedule for yourself. Our bodies really respond well when we're able to put them on some type of schedule. I talk about three big things really, is some type of activity, eating around the same times each day, and then sleeping around the same times each day. I think for most people, not necessarily having something to get to, not getting to the gym, also not having to wake up early in the mornings and stuff, we kind of lose track of that, eat whenever we want to, kind of do whatever we want to, maybe binge watch Netflix all night, and then wake up at 1 o'clock the next day and then start your some type of routine. I think trying to find some type of routine, whether you're eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner each day at the same times, also finding an activity. It doesn't have to be the same kind of activity, but something around the same time, and then going to bed around the same time each night is a great way to kind of keep your body kind of responding like it needs to, because it's going to better respond to something that it's used to rather than kind of going all over the place with it.
Awesome, super helpful. Shelly, I've been a patient of yours in the past, and one of the things that you really stressed was just the importance of flexibility and stretching and things like that. I know if our viewers are anything like me, we're spending a lot of time on the computer right now. A lot of our work has moved to a virtual world. Any thoughts there that we can do to be staying healthy?
Yes, definitely. Even in my profession, I've moved to doing all of my appointments via telehealth and have noticed the struggle that it is being on the computer all the time, answering texts and emails, looking down a lot at my computer, at my phone. It's a consistent struggle to make sure that we're moving the way that we need to. And what happens is whenever we're bent forward over our devices for a long period of times, we start to get tension throughout our muscles. We'll get headaches. We might notice our low back starts to hurt because our hip flexors in the front of our hips will get tight. And we kind of start to take on this crouched over position, or like the lazy couch position, where we just kind of stay here. And what people don't know, and what I encourage people to think about, is that day in and day out posture that we take and those positions that we take on, they will impact you long term. So whether this is a short term or a long term thing that we're going through, it's been weeks now that we've kind of been in this same conundrum, and those daily things have already started to add up for a lot of my patients. And we form these dysfunctional movement patterns, and we get kind of stuck there. And then when the gym's open or the kids are back in sports, it applies to them too, because they've been more inactive. Then we try to go and do the things that we had been doing. Then we're more prone to injury. And that's not a place where we want to see people. So we're just trying to encourage just daily mobility and movement to avoid the injury whenever we do get back to the things that we want to do as well.
Awesome. If you wouldn't mind, something that I found really, really interesting when you began to work with me on just my my posture. You know, we all use the word posture, but like I really didn't know what that was supposed to look like. And one of the things that I noticed very quickly is that when I got this right, a lot of stuff that was hurting before quit hurting, and you really made me aware how everything is so interconnected in our body. Would you care to show the people that are watching today really what proper posture needs to look like, and if we're sitting at the computer or whatever that we're working on, just for total body health?
Yes, for sure. So what happens a lot of times is when we're in these positions, we'll be over our computer. Most people's desk heights aren't appropriate, or you're on your phone, which you're down in this position here. And so our necks get a little bit forward, and we start to crane them out. Our shoulders get rounded forward. Our backs get rounded. Our tails get tucked. And then we start to get tight, and we lose our core stability. So we don't even have to work here anymore, which I know people have heard about core stability and the importance of that with preventing low back pain and issues all around. So what we really encourage people to see is to try to stay tall. Even if you don't know all the components that go into good posture, if you just think about there's a string on the top of your head and somebody's pulling you straight up towards the ceiling, that's going to solve a lot of the things for you. Your head's going to come back in position. Your shoulders are going to come back. You're going to actually engage your stomach muscles. You'll feel them start to work, and you're going to lengthen out your entire spine. So that when that happens, you increase your strength, you decrease compression, and you get your muscles working the way that they're supposed to. And then we also have to think about that we're not supposed to stay in one posture for hours and hours and hours. We're meant to move. So I tell people, yes, if you have to be on Zoom for 10 hours a day, then you need to be on Zoom on your knees for a little while, or one knee up like this for a little while, or try to hang a leg off the edge of your seat to try to get a different posture than just sitting in this position for 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
Can I add something to that?
Absolutely, John Mark.
I think especially right now with everybody being home and stuff, one of the big things people do is sit on couches, sit on recliners. And I think those can be some of the most dangerous things for people because the posture that they allow. They put us in that hunched over posture a lot. I think we as guys, for instance, we sit one of two ways. Generally, you can see this in church when you're up preaching. Yeah. You'll see guys either sitting forward, kind of coming off the back of their chair, or kind of slouched down and kind of coming here. And this is the general posture we see in couches and recliners. So I encourage most of my patients or anyone that comes in contact with me that I talk to about overall postural seating is making sure that you're seated in a seat that has a straight chair back. So like a dining room chair or any chair a computer chair that allows for straightness in the back, and making sure that your bottom is actually touching the chair behind you. And then as you lean back in the chair, your back is then supported or lifted. And that's what's known as lumbar support. I'm sure everyone here has heard the term lumbar support, and it's not necessarily something that you have to go on QVC and buy for $500. As long as you have a chair with a simple straight chair back, you can access that lumbar support. Or if not, take a small pillow, a small towel, something like that to, again, place there and provide that support for you, especially for people that are home right now, sitting in these couches, sitting in recliners for long periods of time. Make sure that you're supported enough to where you can be on Zoom for a long period of time, or if you are hanging out with the kids or doing some type of work, make sure you're supported as you possibly can be. But I can't reiterate enough what Shelley said about changing your positions. Stagnancy is our enemy. So trying to get up and move every once in a while is key to making sure that your body doesn't get cold and doesn't develop any type of just overall prone to injury.
Yeah, super helpful. Well, I know both of you guys are very active in triathletes and swimming, biking, and running, things like that. For those that their gyms are shut down right now and they've got this routine at 4 o'clock every day, I leave the office and I go to the gym, and that's where they go spend the hour and get that good burn. But that option is not available to them now. They're still wanting to stay fit. We'll start with John Mark, and then maybe Shelley, you can jump in after this. Like, give us some ideas of just some practical things that man or woman or boy or girl can do throughout the course of the day if they can't go ride their bike for 2 hours or go for an hour run. What's some things that they can do to just stay healthy during this time?
So I'll tackle maybe inside stuff, and you can tackle some outside stuff. So one of the big things that we provide at our office is a simple 30-minute indoor workout where you need about maybe 2 feet of space. I think for the average person that has a little bit of room inside their house, if they're not able to get outside or go to the gym or anything like that, really being able to do something that's going to get your heart rate up, get you breathing pretty heavily, even if that's just for 10 minutes. Most people can carve out 10 minutes within their day to accelerate the heart rate and get you out of breath a little bit. That allows for change to happen in the body, and that gets you moving, get you going. But certain things that you can do, simple things like a push-up, simple things like a squat or a sit-up are absolutely fine, as long as you're not moving in a way that causes pain. I think that's the biggest thing, is you want to allow pain to be your limiting factor. And if you're doing something that causes pain, don't do it. Other simple things that you can do, such as chair yoga, is just overall kind of sitting down and straightening the legs and bending over and stretching. Holding those stretches for long periods of time gives you that kind of isometric contraction in your muscles, which again helps just overall kind of functionality. With that being said, just more dynamic movements, like you can do things where you're marching in place or jogging in place. You can do things with outside materials like free weights, dumbbells, or kettlebells. You can grab small metal weights and lift those. I think anything that really allows you to continue to move, even if it's for a short period of time, that's again gonna get that heart rate up a little bit, or get you breathing a little heavily, I think is really, really beneficial. And again, allowing pain to be your limiting factor with things.
So when you say pain being your limiting factor, if something hurts, just don't do that. Common sense.
Absolutely common sense. I think too, a lot of times we maybe confuse soreness and pain.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, sometimes if we haven't done anything for long periods of time and things aren't really moving right, things are kind of creaky and maybe a little sore. So being able to understand the difference between muscle soreness and muscle pain is a big deal kind of starting out. But again, if you know your body and you know what you're capable of, I think, just making sure you're not taking it to the point to where you're hurting yourself.
Great. Super helpful. That was inside stuff. Shelley, outside? You like the idea of us getting outside?
I love the idea of getting outside. Not only do I love outside better than inside because of the activity that you're getting, but because the sunshine, the vitamin D, that's going to boost your immune system and get you away from your technology. So a lot of the inside resources that we have are online or a video, again, which are fun, and you want to do those things. But also, I do think that God has created us to get out into his world and be mindful of the things that he's created and take a minute to hear the birds and see the things around us. And I think it 100% decreases your stress level when you do those things and take a minute away. So we will go for a walk or go for a run. Find a place where you can go for a hike. The Greenbelt is really busy right now, but you could go to Home Depot and walk around Home Depot, like around the outside, or a lot of the schools are closed, so find an elementary school and take a couple laps around where there's not going to be a lot of crowds. We have been getting out with our kids a lot too, and providing some workouts or competitions for them to do, which keep us moving and them. So we'll do mailbox sprints. We'll race to the first mailbox and walk back, and then race to the second mailbox and walk back. And we'll go all the way down the street, and they'll be really tired, and then they'll rest, and we'll have a good time acting like different animals in the yard, crawling around like bears or crabs.
We have young kids, by the way.
Yes.
If you got 18-year-olds crawling around like crabs,
they
the
may
neighbors call.
they may not want to. We got littles, but regardless, like we find like a fun activity with sidewalk chalk. We'll make like a sidewalk chalk ladder on the driveway and try to jump from box to box or back and forth.
Great idea.
Just trying to get movement because they would love to sit and watch TV all day as well. So we're just trying to make sure that they get out and get moving. And I really think we need to encourage our kids to do that, and it will help them through this period as well.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up about the kids, because, I mean, I've experienced that at home myself and heard other parents talk about it, and you're right. I mean, everything's different for them, too. They're getting their school done, and then they've got all this, what they view to be spare time, and they want to spend it in front of a television or a game system. The idea of getting our whole families active, that was super, super helpful. Well, guys, why don't we wrap our time up this way today, and then we'll just have some closing thoughts. Speaking of our whole family, I think nutrition is a big part of this, what we eat. I remember when I was seeing the both of you guys, we can't out-exercise and outstretch a bad diet. Like, it matters what we're consuming. And one of you guys mentioned it earlier. We're spending time in front of the television. We're Netflixing. There's a snack, within arm's reach all the time. Give us some thoughts on the kinds of things that we should be eating. John Mark already talked about, like, regular eating rhythms are important, but let's just talk about some of the things that we could be consuming that would be better than Snickers.
I would say what I have noticed with my patients and diet in this specific period of time is that there's almost that anxiety that is connected with what and how people are eating. So I almost feel like we can't discount that when we talk about diet, because I do feel like people are anxious, and that's often an anxious habit that people have. So you really have to set yourself up for success, and like mentally and emotionally, in order to stop the excessive snacking or just every time you go through the kitchen trying to grab something. So practical things you can do are to put the sweets or the things that you don't want to eat frequently a place that isn't convenient or that you would have to go to, like in a separate room, or put a lock on it, or something that would make you mentally have a reminder, like, this shouldn't be something that I do 5 times a day.
Yeah.
And then the things that are good food, but maybe that you're still eating too frequently, you could almost have like a self-check or a check off that day that you could kind of try to monitor what you're taking in.
I've noticed with our kids, I've heard Angela say this multiple times, you're not hungry, you're bored. And I've seen that even in I'm not even really hungry. Like, it's just, I need to fill this time, and I think our human tendencies to fill that with food sometimes. You were going to say something, John Mark?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think kind of getting back to what was talked about earlier is when you are more so on a schedule, when you're eating a breakfast, a lunch, a dinner, you have those times set up for yourself, and kind of like what Shelley was mentioning with snacks and things like that, maybe having time for a snack. Again, the body's going to respond a lot better when it knows what's coming rather than you snacking kind of throughout the day. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, too, that I think I talk to a lot of my patients about is a little bit more of kind of starvation and then binge eating after that. So a lot of people will, at this time, sleep in and skip breakfast, right? And so when you miss a meal, you almost turn your body into what would kind of be like a bear, and you kind of go into a hibernation mode. So when you're skipping meals, your body basically draws up, and it's going to hold on to things a lot more readily, because it doesn't know when it's going to get its next meal, right? So you're going to kind of hold on to all those foods that you do intake because your body is almost going into shock to an extent. So again, making those times or scheduling those times out, I think, are really, really important, so your body knows what to expect. But then also, too, getting into those foods that are good versus foods that are harmful. I think one of the big things that that we talk about are some of those comfort foods that can be really inflammatory to our bodies. And, kind of going into more detail about those, things like dairy and sweets and things like that. When we eat a lot of those, they can inflame our bodies. And our bodies, again, won't respond well to certain things or activities that we do with them if we overload our system with those things. So making sure that we're getting great foods with vitamins, minerals, good nutrients, I think is essential. Not necessarily saying that we can't have sweets or we can't have milk or we can't have bread or anything like that, but more so just understand that there has to be a good counterbalance, right? And so not to say if I eat a piece of broccoli, that means I can eat all the candy I want. That's not really how it goes, and that's not really how it works. Kind of like what you were mentioning earlier, you can't, perform a bad diet. That's research, that's proven. Like, again, just making sure that your body is getting what it needs as far as greens, as far as vegetables and fruits and great things like that, to outweigh potentially some of the heavy carbs that we tend to maybe stress eat from time to time.
Awesome. Well, guys, I want to be a good steward of everyone's time. Thank you guys again for joining us today. If you're watching and you're like, man, I really wish they would have gotten to talk about this, or you have a question, I'm going to put them on the spot. Just post a question in the comment section, and I got their phone numbers. I'll be happy to text them.
Yes, we'd be happy to.
And they'll be a great resource to us, maybe answer some of those questions that we didn't get to today. But again, thank you to Dr. Shelley Tyler, Dr. John Mark Tyler for joining us today. And guys, hey, don't forget tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., Pastor Woody's going to be leading us in a time of prayer. Those have been really sweet, so log on and join us then. And then also, if you are a member of Pleasant Valley Community Church, be watching your inbox. We've got our first ever virtual family meeting this Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Andy's going to be getting the link out for that meeting today. So we would encourage you to make plans to join us and participate in that meeting. But it was great seeing you guys today. Your pastors love you. We're praying for you. Grace and peace to you.